Welcome everyone to episode 281 of Just Joshing. I'm your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff in podcast too. Today, Adam Dreece is back on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and this was a really cool conversation. Adam has just gone back into the working world. We talk about that. We talk about 5 critical things, and I cannot recommend this book enough. 5 Critical Things is one of the best books on writing how to present yourself at book signings, conventions, the whole author persona from just who you are outside to how you conduct yourself with your audience. I don't know many books that really do this as well as this one. This is a must for any creative person, not just a writer. I will go so far to say anybody that has to deal with the public in any way and is very uncomfortable, this is your book. You need to read this. This will tell you how it's done, and Adam's one of the best at it. So we have a great conversation, and I love it. One of the people I'm going to definitely miss when I do leave Calgary is going to be Adam. He's one of the coolest guys I've had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know, and I always enjoy my chats with him. So anyway, I think you guys will too. So this podcast is coming out on Tuesday for a reason, this week and next week. This week was because it was a holiday and I decided to do something I don't normally do, and that is just goof off. I played Persona 5. I really like Persona 5. I don't know if I maybe should play it as much as I am, but this week in particular is kind of the last week I get to do this kind of goofing off. Friday I make a cake. Friday I get some more Dr. Seuss books, but besides that I'm ready for When Worlds Collide, and I'm looking forward to it. I really, really, really am. I'm excited about that, but because of When Worlds Collide next week, I'm going to probably put the episode for the podcast after When Worlds Collide on Tuesday. Monday, I am pretty much going to be dealing with Con Crud and doing something at the Sparkle Muffin, and I'd rather, just not worry about it, just chill, take an easy day. Beyond that, though, I had a great weekend. Otherwise, I had 4 fantastic conversations. At least 2 of them are 2-parters. One of the things I've noticed about the podcast now, it's a lot harder to condense this in under an hour. I might make this now 45 minutes to an hour 15. It kind of feels like that's where the podcast tends to want to be. We'll still have some short episodes every now and then, but I think as these episodes have become a lot more condensed and awesome, it's just harder to do. But anyway, before we get to the conversation, 2 more things. This week, in light of the fact that Adam is the guest, I am giving away ebook copies of Wizard Killer Volume 1. Wizard Killer is my favorite series of Adam's. I do think Yellow Hoods is amazing, but Wizard Killer is definitely written for a guy like me. I dig it. It's adrenaline, nonstop, start to finish. You'll love it, I promise. I'm also giving away a copy of Space Mercs. There may or may not be a certain podcast involved. Definitely should check that out. I'm also giving away my last copy of Wicked Initiations by Jennifer Ron. This is the last week with Jennifer's sponsoring the podcast. Jennifer, I thank you very much for your contribution and your support. It meant a lot, and your books are amazing. Finally, I'm giving away a copy of The Unquiet Shadow by Your Leave. So I'm going to go to the sponsorships so you can listen to, their single I put on there, which is Dream Stalker, and then we'll get to our conversation. So let's do that all, shall we? Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint brings your creations to life. They believe in indies helping indies, and they have been known to contribute to everything from game jams to NaNoWriMo and everything in between. As a creator, you just bring your work to them, whether you're a writer, musician, or video game designer, or whatever the case may be, and they'll help you format, proof, and distribute your project to a variety of different avenues. For more information, check them out at info@indieimprint.com. And by Jennifer Ron, author. Jennifer is re-releasing her fantasy series Legend of Tenlock with her first book, Wicked Initiations, coming at When Worlds Collide. She's also been released a Dark Quarter, courtesy of Bundarin Press. You can contact her at longevitithesis.ca. That is worldwideweb.longevitithesis.ca.
The landscape in my vein has of despair and speed of pain. Shattered red and drowned of bone, as blood is red from every stone. Broken corpses and set of flesh, shattered bones and organ flesh. Nightmares from the depth of soul, forced to be a grim hell hole. Whoa. breaking down the torments of life. Darkness inside, birth of pain and strife. Devils consuming, a thug hangs on high. Devoured by sin, a cruel way to die. My mind clouds the fog descends. Is this how it always ends? The signs are there, the lights will fade. Dreams darker, worse than any blade. What's the burning of the sleeper's mind? Body breaking soul in agony. Leaving shadow, death is drawing near. Does the best sweet life away? Breaking down the torments of life. Darkness inside, birth of pain and strife. Devils consuming, a thug hangs on high. Devoured by sin, a cruel way to die. My mind clouds, the fog descends. Is this how it always ends? The signs are there, the lights will fade. Dreams darker, worse than any blade. Dream stalker, dream stalker, dream stalker, dream stalker, dream stalker, dream stalker. My mind clouds, the fog descends. Is this how it always ends? The signs are there, the lights will fade. Dreams darker, worse than any blade. My mind clouds, the fog descends. Is this how it always ends? The signs are there, the lights will fade. Dreams darker, worse than any blade.
So as usual when I ask these things, if you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's also like when I go on Skype, because I always have to I always test my recorder depending on where I go. It's like, okay, say something funny. And I just let them go. It's hilarious to watch the result of that because I don't really care what you say as long as you actually say something so I can hear you.
Right.
Right? And then so I can test it. But I go, say something funny. They're like, some people are like, say something funny. It's like, perfect. Right? That's it. That's all I need. Some people get that, but then some people just freeze. It's like, oh God, he wants something entertaining. What
did you panic? I'm not prepared for this. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, either way, it's hilarious. Right? And then, but I find, like when I go on Skype, when I do these interviews on Skype, it's a hell of an icebreaker. Because what it does is, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I don't know what to talk about. Say something funny. Oh God. Wait. Okay, good. We're done. It's like, wait, that was it? Yeah. I just want to make sure this works because if I'm going to talk to you, I want to make sure this records.
Yeah. Otherwise, this is going to be a very interesting interview of just these questions coming out and these retorts without the other side.
Yeah, exactly. So I find icebreakers are important. Although I have interviewed you, this is the 4th time I think on the show.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. This one I think was the longest gap between that though. So this will be like episode 280-ish or so. I know.
Wow.
No, I've done these for a while. Who knew? Yeah.
It has been just awesome, like we were just talking about, right? In terms of the constant increase in terms of listeners and then the sponsors and whatnot. It's been fantastic to watch this growth.
Yeah, actually it's hilarious. My one sponsor is giving me a Zoom camp, a Zoom thing. So next time we do this, I actually might have a Zoom mic here.
Ooh.
Oh, I know, it's fancy, ain't it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Zoom mics is they hook up to the phone. So I can take the app, which is already a really decent app for this.
Yeah.
I can use the Zoom mic to actually, so it'll be like a very high quality recording.
Wow.
I know, I'm getting technical and shit.
Well, it's like break into the 300, it's going to be like all posh and everything. So you have to schedule 6 years in advance just to have a slot.
Yeah. That could be hilarious. That would be hilarious. It's not like I did a call out for interviews like last week because it's like, oh my god, I haven't been out in a while, right? So it's like I need interviews. Also, it's like thunk, right? I need interviews. So and then you see people like you've never met before. It's like, hey, I would love to be on your podcast. I would love to be on your podcast. Wow, cool. I'm glad you know me. Thank you.
Then a little bit of evil comes out. It's like, well, just $1 for the slot, and then at $5, and then it's a whole pyramid scheme of itself.
Yeah.
Unintended businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, I start a call.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I start.
So it's just that little sliver of evil, and it all just goes downhill.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I wouldn't be able to do these anymore.
True. Well, they just take on a whole different meaning. There's a little bit more fake religiousness all around it. No. Nah,
it's not my root of evil. Like my root of evil is more like hot wiring cars to crash into each other.
Oh.
I'm a little bit more of a mischief maker. I'm maybe at my very worst moments a hired thug, right? Masterminding evil plots seems like work.
Yeah. I guess we've each got where we naturally go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, hey, listen, So I put down like my weekly thing, and I talked about I said sparkling the muffin, which is my joke for the day job. So Colleen Anderson responds, I don't know what that is, so I hope you just don't get arrested. I'm like, and the other people like Susie laughs every time I mention that on there. She's like, just the way you describe your job, like why do you do it like? Because I go, because you can't take it seriously if you describe it like that. That's why.
And it can bring you joy.
Yes, especially when I'm looking at everybody panicking or working their asses off, and I just say sparkle, sparkle, and they're just like I literally have a 60-year-old dude go, I don't know what's wrong with you. Yeah, but I also lead the job. I mean, I'm physically sore, but I'm stress-free. Right? I don't like the only time I have stress is if I'm around certain idiots for a long period of time. But I think that's just,
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because if you take the analogy of sparkles a little further, right? Then there's a difference between sparkle jobs and glitter jobs, because glitter you can't get it off of you, right?
Exactly.
Like it stays on you even if you've left that job years later. You still have little bits of glitter.
Yes.
Right.
I never thought of it that way.
It just occurred to me.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah, you can have sparkle jobs, you can have glitter jobs.
Yeah.
Right? The job I find myself in these days.
Yeah.
It's the positive side of sparkle.
Well, it sounds like they're taking really good care of you, which is, I think.
It's really interesting because to give folks some background, right? So, I launched my author career in 2014. I was doing a massively stressful technology project that I was leading, which I refer to as I was sold a sleepy little simple thing, and I walk in, it's like the house is on fire, everybody's in gasoline-soaked suits, and it's like, can you just solve this, right?
So it was definitely a glitter job.
Oh, it was, yeah, absolutely. Where you're kind of shaking and it just keeps being dumped on you constantly. Yeah. So, but decided to finally write the first 2 Yellow Hoods books, so I got through that. And then the economy here, right, oil collapsed. And so then I pivoted because I have the most amazing wife in the world who is like, hey, you wanted some time to take care of the kids, and you wanted some time to write your brains out, so go. And then about 4 years later, and 12 books or so later, realizing that I was reaching a decision point where, I could do small car payments with what I was getting for my books, but I couldn't make mortgage payments. And my resume was getting enough rust, particularly in the IT space. Like 3.5 to 4 years is kind of the breaking point. And my wife had been through about like 3 or 4 jobs. She's in IT as well, and 3 or 4 jobs in about 4 years. So it's like we kind of needed more stability. And so that, that grown-up part of me is like, all right.
So adult Adam had a conversation with kid Adam. It's like, Adam, we need to do this.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I so much have an adult as I had kind of a council of, the 5-year-old, the 7-year-old, and like the 14-year-old in a room. And I sat there and said, do I think within 6 months I can for certain, put in place like a right-to-market type strategy and sort of make the mortgage payments and whatnot and have the stability that I wanted there? And more importantly, would I feel satisfied? Versus if I go back, could I be satisfied and not lose all the other elements I've started up?
Yep. And I understand you go choosing the path you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one, you have kids, and
and it's a different game.
Yeah,
right?
It's totally a different game when you have that.
So, and being the responsible partner, I mean, my wife and I have always been a team in that regard. When she'd been on mat leave, or when my appendix nearly killed me and took me out of commission for like 15, 18 months, we've always been able to just rely on the other one from financial to emotional and everything else. And so I kind of felt like I've had this period to really ground my author side, which will stay with me permanently, and decided to start going. So I was doing some interviews at Amazon and looking at returning to Microsoft. And then this little company out of nowhere called me. And it's like, hey, would you come and interview with us? It's like, okay, sure, as a warm-up for the others, but also to find out, because you never know. And ended up really hitting it off with their chief technology officer, and then decided to go to work for them. And I thought it would take me several months to get back into the swing of things. It took me about 2 weeks. Great consulting company, about 150 people, headquartered out of Edmonton, and with an office here in Calgary. And we constructed a role for me, which was chief technology strategist. So I got to go and really push the boundaries of what this consulting company did, right? So take them out of the comfort zone. But I started getting bored. And then the guy who was leading their software product team left. And I took that over. And I have not had as much fun in all of my life since then. And we've doubled the team size, and we've reshaped into a startup, and we've got a target to break out as its own company in about a year and a half's time, if everything goes according to plan. And it's interesting for me, because now I've got this other completely creative outlet that satisfies my technology side as well as my business side and creative. Now it's slowed down my writing side, but I'm having more time to kind of curate those stories. So it's kind of been an interesting rebalancing of the self.
Well, okay, so one of the things that as I've gotten older, wiser, we'll leave that question. Why?
Sure, yeah.
We'll leave that question to the wiser people than me, because I'd have no idea. But one of the things I've come to the conclusion in the last couple of years is quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. I think there's a point in your life where you just realize, like, you know what? I really want the best thing here I can possibly get. I'm no longer interested in doing a bunch of little things. And that is, by the way, not belittling anything you've done in previously, but it's just like, now I get to write at a pace I'm more comfortable with. I can actually put I can add nuts and bolts and depth to a story now. Because although I'm not writing as quickly, I'm thinking about it more. I'm more meticulous about maybe how I'm executing the story.
Well, I think of it differently, right? Like the pace that I was writing at, and this was part of the decision, right? So my youngest was going into grade 1. I've been writing 2 to 3 books a year. Really comfortable with that. When I tried to go further than that, I was not happy with the story, so those stories never came out. I've got I've got Tabruna, I've got the Torrents of Tangier. I've got all these other stories that never made it. I had a season 4 of Wizard Killer that I wasn't happy with, so I didn't put out yet. Went back to basics on it. So I was faced with a choice, which was I could increase the number of stories that I put out with my US going, or I could shift things to satisfy that financially, because now I was far enough along that I needed to make sure that my family, my daughter, who's going to go to university in way too few years. Jeez.
Hey,
4 years?
But I also know this. Like, you should have just seen his eyes sparkle there, ladies and gentlemen. He's both terrified and proud of her at the exact same time.
Yeah. So never mind my boys.
Yes.
So when I looked at all that, it's like, okay, would I be happy if I reduced the number of stories I've written? And I struggle with that. I still make copious notes. I have stories still piling up at the same rate in my head. But I'm able to park those, and it also tells me that I need to start making changes to allow myself to have some retreats where I can just binge write, to quote Hamilton, which is my daughter's favorite musical, which is, in those moments then I can write like a man running out of time. So it's been an interesting rebalance. And the other thing, and I give this advice to people all the time, which is all because you were doing something at a certain rate does not mean that you need to continue. You've got different life factors, right? So you have those moments where you might be sprinting, you have those moments where it might be more the marathon walk, but as long as you just keep moving forward, right? And it'll give you those opportunities to reflect. For example, with Annie-Pocalypse that I've been writing, that's a story that I go back and forth whether or not to get an agent for it or not. And I'm allowing myself the time to really think that through. I'd gotten to a point where I needed to release something every September and every April because we have big cons in the area. Now, the company that took those over have pretty much damaged those irreparably. Irreparably until somebody clues in and chips them around. But one of the things that made my decisions a little bit easier. And by taking this job, I was able to disconnect from those deadlines. Got to have at least one thing out for September and April every year, to just start saying, you know what, I'm going to release it when
it's ready.
I'm ready.
Yep.
Right. Now, in doing that, certain things have fallen by the wayside, like the frequency of my newsletter and whatnot, and I need to rebalance. But I'm really good with it, right? Yeah. I'm happy with it. It's like I still get these great emails from fans, which is awesome.
I feel like in your case, it's more like you're happy with the plan. There's some little things you're still kind of balancing, but the big stuff you're like, you know what, I'm cool with it.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what, I'm so fortunate with the team that I have working with me, the freedom that I have. Like I've basically handed the keys to this product. It's like, okay, you got about 15 existing customers. Here's kind of like your budget, your pool of people. What features do you think they should have? Run the team with that.
Yes. Present
to customers. It's like, okay, you just handed me literally an incubated startup. And yeah, that's so my creative juices get to go there. The other interesting thing to come out of that is that it's really been feeding the whole Man of Cloud 9 eventual sequel.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because that's I consider Man of Cloud 9 like your Steve Jobs novel. Like it just feels like it feels like it's in that vein a lot more, and almost like this is a revisit to that environment.
Yeah.
Right, and you're also coming at, I think, this environment from like a different perspective than you did in your younger days. Mm-hmm. Right. So what's been the biggest difference? I mean, obviously you're having more fun, but why? You probably 10 years ago, you probably would have been a lot more stressed out about this than you are now.
Yeah. Well, for 25 years I wrote and did nothing with my writing, right? And that was. I had a small cargo plane worth of baggage from people who had been around me for a long time, feeling because I was dyslexic that I had no place being an author, because my stories didn't follow what they perceived as being the measured ways characters should develop, instead allowing that character to be really organic and come to life. It was like, oh my God, what do you mean you do these 3D things? Everything should be 2D. So the big difference from 4 years ago or so is that, and I joke, like, I wrote my first book not knowing if I could write a book. And then people clearly demonstrated bad judgment by liking it. And so I tried to prove to them that I was a fraud by writing a second one. And then they still didn't get the message because they liked that one. That then when I wrote the third one, I came to realize, okay, maybe I've got the wrong perception of myself.
Yeah.
And now, 12 books later, I've got this, and this is in part from the act of touring the country, having, hand sold like, I don't know, about 14,000, 15,000 books. Never mind online sales. Like just direct one person to another person. Doing all of those events, I came to see that, I can absolutely do this. And I can ratchet it up and ratchet it down. And so now nobody can ever take that away from me.
No.
Right? Like my sales can shoot up, my sales can go extremely quiet because I've not been doing anything, yet I still get my trickle along, and both on Audible and from Amazon and Kobo. So that big difference from years ago is I know more than I just can. I know that my books find an audience. And so a lot of these things that I've been told by the wrong kind of people for years, right? Like you'll never find an audience, your books are, they're going to be too philosophical, they're too whatever, right? All the kind of things where people just try to tear you down. They were just outright wrong. And it got shown to me time and again by simple things like being at a signing at a big box store and somebody coming in and there's this screech and I turn around and the person's pointing at me going, oh my God, he's here, right? Those kind of moments nobody can take away from you. And I needed to finish it off before getting too much into the work thing with capturing a lot of those moments for the 5 critical things, right? So to put that into a guide to help other people get to where I got to.
And it's one of my favorite books of yours. Because I read it and it was like you gave, I'll let people know, he actually let me sneak peek at this a little earlier than I think a few other people, the guy had sneak peek at it. So I read it and I actually read the whole thing in 2 sittings. It was like sitting one, I had a podcast to do, so I had to stop at like page 60, and then I just finished the rest of it off when I read it this year, and it was like, this is one of the best guides of how to build yourself and conduct yourself as an author. I think, and we've talked about this off the air, one of the biggest things I recognize when I interview authors is most of them do not have a clue about that end of the business at all.
Yeah, like the book signing, the public press.
They have no clue at all. There's someone I interviewed not too long ago. She was very quiet in her answer. It wasn't a bad interview, but wasn't the interview it could have been. I mean, I literally, when it was over, I talked to her for an hour. I was like, honestly, just find that thing you're comfortable talking about, and be comfortable talking about it, because it doesn't matter if 3 people respond to it. That's your audience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not like, oh my God, it's only 3 people. And it's like, oh my God, it's 3 people.
Right. Yeah.
It's more than just me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not my mom. Yay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not my mom. It's like, yes. But I mean, that's the important thing. That's how you build your audiences, right? Is you don't build them with your books build them. Good books build your audience. But so does being, a human being. We no longer are in an age where an author can write a book and hide behind the shield of I am here, you're there, we're never gonna meet. I can be comfortable being uncomfortably myself.
Oh yeah.
Or in a corner. You don't have that luxury anymore.
No.
It's this thing called Twitter. It's this thing called Facebook. It's this thing called Instagram. People know you exist and they want to say hi. And if you have any sense, it's just good business, let alone just polite, say hi back somehow, some way.
Yeah, and it's part of what I I've been given the same kind of advice to a lot of different authors over the years about, developing that persona, that version of yourself. And so what I did with 5 Critical Things for Successful Book Signings was break down very concretely, what did I do, right? Like, started with being able to talk to people at the coffee shop, get them to get out of their drone mode of place order, here you go, but be able to converse with them. And it took me a while to be able to do that. And I share the exercises that I did in the book to be able to help somebody really cross that chasm. I mean, too many kind of self-help and business books are kind of hand-waving, and it's almost like, hey, here's this fantastic thing you should be able to do, right? And then they kind of gloss over stuff, and really it almost feels like a commercial to get you to buy their next book or webinar or whatever.
Or this is your course lesson. You can buy this right now for $9.99, and we'll teach you everything you need to know. And then you get the course, and you're like, wait, where's about this step? You can get that step for $99.99. You're like, wait, I feel like I schemed.
Yeah. And so what I really wanted to do, and it's funny because I got a lot of great early feedback on 5 Critical Things, and one of them was from someone who's been trying to build their brand with that webinar kind of space. And they're like, hey, you know what? You could kind of fluff this up, make this maybe 3 books, do webinars on this. Like, yeah, but you know what? This is the book that if I'd read at the beginning, I would have saved myself not just a hell of a lot of time, but a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, and I've never been one to kind of keep secrets. If I can tell you something that helps save you from some pain that I went through,
well,
great.
Well, I think one of the biggest things a lot of people like on that point is there is no competition. There really isn't. Like, you do your thing, I do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I can help you do your thing better, great, I can do that. You can help me do my thing better, great, because it makes me better, it makes you better, and by default, it's like you shining brings attention to everybody. I'm shining brings attention to everybody, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like to say to some people, it's like, look, if I can help you be wildly successful, the only thing I ask is say hi to me when you're on the Ellen show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's like, hey, we'd just like to call out, fantastic.
Yeah. At this point, well, actually, like we were talking about this off the air. I make it like when I get sponsors now, I thank my sponsors when our time is up. It's just a smart thing. But I also do like things like the next novel I'm releasing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the things I'm doing is I have a promise is I'm thinking about half the people that helped me with my GoFundMe fix my teeth. Like that's actually going to be in a special.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just a special acknowledgement page just for that. And everybody, just so in case everybody, my next book, Adam did play a bigger role in it than I think either of us anticipated. I modeled the villain a little bit after him.
Oh, the more reason I better go read my preview version.
Yes. I mean, it's not quite him. I mean, there's his own character, but I did take
inspired by.
Totally, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I think you read this before, the conversation with the daughter over the phone. I hope maybe your daughter doesn't read this, because I think she probably could get that out of you, and I think that's the thing. Like, there. You love your kids.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But yeah, you love your kids.
Yeah.
It's who you are, and that's the great thing. But not only that though, you've been you helped with the teeth, you helped with a lot of things. So I thought that this book is definitely gonna be a special acknowledgement just for you.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the it's funny, actually. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th time I've appeared in somebody's book. I think twice as a mad scientist guy, and the other couple of times, including yours, as a villain. So it's always interesting when somebody says, "Hey, can I use you in my book?" It's like, am I that much of a caricature, or am I just that much of a?
Do I
have that much of an effect on people?
It was Mr. Fluffy. It was it was the dog that I saw you at a convention, right? Mm-hmm. And you were dressed up in your full like steampunk regalia, mm-hmm. But also like you had the full goatee. You were like, it's like, he could be a very charismatic evil wizard, right? And then I put that aside, and then
was it the steampunk puppy photo that I put up, Mr. Pickles?
Yes. I saw that and I saw that, it was like, oh my god, he is a villain. That's it. Actually, it was just a good nature, and don't get me wrong. Like I thought, like I told you, Ella Beaumont's the model for the next villain in the next book.
Oh, neat.
She's just really nice about everything, and I actually thought
That's the way supervillains should be. It's like, I'm really sorry to inconvenience you, but we've got to do this.
Yeah,
right?
that's no. Well, it's the fact, like, okay, so Ella impresses me just based on the fact that she does everything with a smile, and doesn't matter how difficult the task is, she's up for it. That's terrifying, actually. It's like a woman that knows no fear, no visible fear, and just goes into about the business of doing, like, that's actually a very terrifying villain. Right? It's like, but again, that's how my brain works. So I
I have, in those stories that didn't make the cut yet. So I've got Action Guy. And some people actually beta read this, and then I decided not to release it because it wasn't complete yet. Needed about 2 more chapters to close it out. And there's a villain, Mr. Simple, who's one of those just absolute geniuses. And the only reason he's kind of fallen in with villains was more out of boredom as he was growing up. And so he doesn't quite have a moral compass, not evil intended, but it's just kind of like other people have this natural direction. Say, hey, this is a good thing, and he's like, okay, how do you know that? But he always goes under the radar by just having that name that nobody and having a fairly sunny disposition, right? Yeah. It's like, well, the evil villain behind this whole city being destroyed couldn't be called Mr. Simple and leaving you an apology note, right? But that's very much part of the character.
Yeah, well, it's just. Like, when you look at like villains don't have to be they shouldn't be the cartoony mustache twirling. They really shouldn't be that. They should be people that on some level you can relate to, because the best villains are like a couple choices here, a couple choices there, right? I'm not necessarily could be that kind of villain, but I can see how somebody could make those choices, right? And those are the best villains, right?
Well, what's the difference between like a villain in some regard? I mean, you've got the classic, chaotic evil style, wanting to get revenge on the world, destroy everything, right? Just so that I feel that I had an impact on the universe. And then you've got, is it an act of rebellion?
Yeah.
Is it a rebellion against the oppression, right? I like it taking the whole original Star Wars trilogy and just turn it around about this youth who gets radicalized by this fringe religion.
Yes.
Right? And you can turn it to where, Luke is entirely evil. It's just what we get to see is
if you look at
from his perception.
It's funny because if you look at the Star Wars trilogy, I couldn't blame Anakin for turning. Like the way it was presented on film, I couldn't blame him because it was like he was to them, he was the equivalent of a genius. And instead of trusting him they put all the restraints they could on him. So naturally, he did what anybody would do if they felt handcuffed all the time, not to be able to do all the things that they could do.
Well, you can't save your mom. You can't. And then the one person who shows any belief in you, they will have the greatest influence over you.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And the fact is, I mean, you look at what Palpatine did. Palpatine was always his friend. Never tried to change him. Never tried, until the very end when he finally attempted.
He always just gently pushed him, right?
Just
enough.
It was a slow process. He never ever got in Anakin's way of doing anything until it ultimately came time to say, okay, he trusts me. Now that he trusts me, now we'll start to.
I wonder if we're going to be branded now as Palpatine apologists.
Yeah, totally. Hey, he's my favorite part of the third movie because at least the actor Ian McDiarmid you could tell he had a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
In that role, like he had a ton of fun, and because he was so. The first there's episodes 1, 2, 3. There's a lot of hollow characters. He's one of the few that's not. Right? He feels like he's someone you get because he's very enthusiastic. Yeah, he's evil, but he loves it, and you can kind of you can't. I'm sorry, I cannot help but root for him just a little bit in that first trilogy. Now in the second trilogy, I don't root for him at all. He is a unmitigated evil bastard, but that's because I can relate to Han, I can relate to Luke, I can relate to Leia, I can relate to Obi-Wan, I can relate to all these characters because they feel a lot more fleshed out. They have flaws. Han's got huge flaws, but he's got a heart of gold underneath all that. Luke has some huge flaws, right? Leia is a badass, just incredible badass, right? But you just so it's easier to root for them. Whereas if you go in the first trilogy, Qui-Gon Jinn, I have no idea who he is even now.
And, you know, it's a shame. That's actually a great example of some great character opportunities. Right. That are just kind of abandoned. And anyway.
No, it's just that's the only thing about that first trilogy. That's like I could understand a Palpatine apologist for the first 3 movies. I actually could. Right. Not the second 3, but first.
And we'll see with the 9.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping because with that series, I blew it out. I thought a little bit in 8. They should have developed Rey more because I find I don't dislike her, which is good, but I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
That's the flaw. And it's not what anybody else thinks. It's if they had given her a little bit more of a.
Well, like the first movie, with The Force Awakens, it really felt to me like it was and I know it was intended this way, which is almost like a half remake.
Yeah, it's a soft reboot. It's a soft reboot to the series, and it's okay.
And that's fine, but there was more. If you take, for example, some of the Marvel movies as examples, you can get these great character arcs. You got to narrow the film a little bit, right? Then you can get this. We just rewatched Iron Man 3, which is
that's a great movie.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about Tony's inventiveness and it's almost like Tony's super separate from Iron Man.
Yeah. I love Tony's interaction with. I can't remember the kid's name. I just love those interactions between the two.
Yeah.
I thought this was first off, kudos to Robert Downey Jr. That he played that perfectly, but second, it was so. It made me. I couldn't help but laugh at Tony because he's fighting with a little kid about inventions and about I have to put him on the clock for a schedule, and it's just like you're hilarious, right? But it's those moments that make Tony Stark who he is in those movies, and that's why you root for him. It's not.
Well, it's also because you get to see right from the first movie where he's so self-indulgent at the beginning of it, right? To that arc to then you get to see in the first Avengers movie where he does a self-sacrificing moment, then to Endgame and Iron Man 3 being kind of along that way. It's just such a fantastic arc.
Oh yeah.
Right, and then you compare it to the shallowness of character development that we see in the more recent Star Wars movies, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Absolutely. No, because there's a lot more. All these characters, I like them all. I like Finn. I like Rey. I like even the. I don't like the X-wing captain. I don't know him.
Oh yeah.
I see. In fact, I can't remember his name. Is actually a strike again.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So. But I like Finn and I like Rey, and I want to root for them. Where Disney has failed me is they don't give me enough of a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Right? If they give me a reason, those movies are suddenly way better.
I think at the end of the day, I think it comes down to not just the caliber of the writing, but the execution. Can you bring those moments forward, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same reason why Warner with the DC movies have. We just watched Shazam. That was fun.
No, Shazam was fun. I haven't seen it yet. I want to. It's like Shazam.
We just saw it 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Shazam's one of my. Wonder Woman's the best thing they've done in DC.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the best thing they've done in DC. It's good. It's not great, but it's definitely very good.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I feel like we couldn't have had the Captain Marvel movie without Wonder Woman preceding it.
Yes.
But then Captain Marvel really upped the whole game. And so I look forward to what they are doing with Wonder Woman 1984. But yeah, it's been kind of hit and miss on these on the DC. I think it's staying away from the Zack Snyder-ness.
It's good. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
But unless you want to do a Batman Dark Knight Returns, then you can go with Zack Snyder if you really want to.
You know what? I think that whole darkness. You've always got to look at things relative to the current state of society, right? And this is why I'm writing the Annie-Pocalypse.
Yeah.
For anybody on the podcast, ANNY, Apocalypse being the last name, right? It's an over-the-top space opera. The villains are anthropomorphized vegetables, right? Why? Because we're in such a darker, more serious, high tense time. You need to counterbalance that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the other thing too is like they're supposed to be fun. like this is escapism, and escapism at the end of the day. Yeah, I like going. Like, don't get me wrong. There's room for horror. There's room for bad things. But if you're doing like a fun romp, then you gotta make it fun.
Well, and it's like, that's where I see the Marvel movies having done such a great job. You can always bring the kids.
Yes.
Right? And you can bring your own little kid to it, but it still has enough to feed the adults in you.
Yeah.
And then I look at what DC did with in my opinion, disastrous Man of Steel stuff as a long time.
Yeah, no.
Superman fan, but Batman as well. Then I look at, okay, well now you've got your Aquaman, you've got your Shazam, you've got your Wonder Woman. We need a Michael Keaton style Batman to fit with that.
Actually, what they should do next is a Flash movie. No. Okay. Let me.
Yes, ignoring the previous actor Ezra.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, but ignoring that, ignoring Justice League.
No, because so Shazam is fun. Like, as a concept, it's super fun, right? The Flash is the second most fun concept DC has.
Yeah, though I think this is where it's DC's got it working from a TV show. I mean, even though like the last season or two has been a little high schooly, except you can tell really when what's her name, who plays Killer Frost, takes the director reins. Like, you know how to tell the story so much tighter in those episodes. But in principle, yes, I would just say it's like I would almost kind of be stealing some of the thunder.
No. I get where you're coming from, but they really should. It's like look. I dread when they go back to do a Green Lantern movie. I dread that. Okay, I'm a Green Lantern guy, and I dread this. Okay, but those concepts should be the most fun. Look, you got a ring, right? You got a ring that can do anything.
I saw this. I read this analogy a long time ago, and I thought it was so apropos. Which is, Marvel is kind of like when you're a kid. It's the leather jacket wearing boyfriend of your older sister, right? Kind of cool and little great. And DC was always you and your little brother jumping up and down on the couch with hot dogs, thinking that they're laser guns.
Yes.
Right. And that was part of the fun of it, right?
That's the charm. That's the real charm.
I think that fundamentally, from a writing point of view, is what Warner Brothers is missing. They kind of see some of the more, let's call them, flawed sides of characters in the Marvel universe, and then try to go super dark, and it's not what's needed. It just kind of grounds them.
Yeah.
In the same way that for the Shazam movie, just taking it as lighthearted and ignoring some of the elements.
I actually
the character's flawed in that he's still a little kid. He's grossly out of his league.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that they took Black Adam out of the movie. For the first one, it made that
totally overshadowed.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what The Rock does with Black Adam.
Yeah.
Right? Because you will have to bring them together at some point. But the fact that they just let Shazam breathe on his own first that was a huge necessary step.
Yeah.
Is the villain Savannah?
Do you want me to answer this question?
Yes and no.
I'll just say this. Knowing you as I do, watch it. You won't be disappointed.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I was impressed. And the other thing that was great is that we watched it as our whole family of 5. And from my youngest who's 6, and my daughter who's 14, and my middle son who's 8, my wife, myself, we all were able to enjoy it, right? And for me, that's what superhero movies are about. It should be inspiring and uplifting, and kind of fills you. We aren't talking about like Brightburn, which I didn't get to see, but just from the trailers. Wonderful, brilliant concept, right? Take the Superman ethos and turn it dark. Go all in. Fantastic. But you can't call that a superhero movie.
No, it's not supposed to be a superhero movie. Right. It's not supposed to. That's supposed to be like, you can make it a horror. You can make it like, it's not a superhero movie. It's about what makes one of these characters fall and why. And that is a very cool story to tell.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not a superhero story.
No. And that's where I kind of felt like I had taken my daughter to see Man of Steel when it came out.
Boy.
And we saw it early enough like in terms of when it had released, that there was not enough info out there to realize this was turned into basically a horror style movie, like when they've got Kal-El on the Kryptonian ship and all the medical experiments.
Yeah.
We walked out, right? There's only 2 movies I've ever walked out of: Mortal Kombat 2 and Man of Steel.
And I can't fault either choice. Yeah.
Right?
And although Mortal Kombat 2, that made me sad. Because it was such a cool series. Like, the first movie was, like, as a concept, it's a cool series, right? It's just like, but anyway, we digress. But, so, going back to something we were talking about earlier, you're writing less, but I feel like you're satisfied with your work more. Is that an accurate?
Yeah, it's, I've gone from that feeling that I had to release to now I want to release these stories, and I've got a couple of fantastic editors, and that really lets me breathe, right?
Yeah.
Between Jess and Mike, and I think you had Jess on your show a couple of podcasts ago.
Yes.
So.
Really? She's your editor? We didn't go down that road at all.
Really?
No.
With her and Mike, I'm able to breathe. I have somebody who, some buddies. I think of them collectively as one.
Yeah, no, they're both really cool. Like
they were fantastic. The part for me that I think I wouldn't feel so free right now if I didn't have them, because they are unafraid to go, hey, you're violating your own brand, or you're getting off pattern here, or is this intentional shit? Like I don't have to worry about if I've accidentally colored outside the lines, because they will identify it for me. So I can just be my entirely creative me, right? And they will call me out if the scene is not tight enough, if it's taking too long, if it's missing something. And so I'm so much happier with what I'm writing now. I need to get out. I need to get Annie finished and out. I was hoping to have that out for end of July to them. Not publicly released. Now it's more likely sometime in September. Of course, I screwed up my schedule by, we bought a house, we're selling a house, so that just creates a whole bunch of extra noise in the background.
It's okay. I'm flying to leave the province. It kind of got in the way of some of my plans too. It happens, right?
Like, oops, sideswiped by life.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot happier with what I'm writing. I feel I have less noise in my head getting in the way of the story. So if I'm not completely happy with a scene, I can let it take a little bit longer.
You're oddly less distracted.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not so focused on it. You're like,
well, all the other demons in my head, they've got other stuff to focus on.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, the doubt's less. I've got these books that continue to get me, fan emails, seemingly like right at the right moments that I need. It's like, I don't really know if this story can pull together. And then, bing.
Actually, I think the most amazing thing about writing is you every time you do a new book, you don't know what you're doing. You still don't know completely. Every time.
Yeah. The only thing you can know is you can have some level of confidence that
you can
most likely I'll figure my way out. Yeah, well, to finish it, I kind of see all these graveyards in front of other stories.
I kind of like there's 2 ways of looking at it. Sometimes I've discovered my whole career is a bunch of accidental surprises. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I make chocolate chip cookies. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's the other brown stuff. It's just there's no middle ground, right? It's either going to be good or bad, but you learn from either.
See, I thought you were going to say, like, sometimes it turns out it was cookies and sometimes it turns out it was lasagna. You didn't really know what road you were going down.
Yeah, no, sometimes lasagna sometimes happens, right? Mm-hmm. But like chocolate cookies, there's lasagna, there's ice cream, and then there's the
inedibles.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, gotcha. Exactly. But even the inedibles, there's usually a good idea here and there you can grab and use them elsewhere. Like I have a broken novel called The Immortality Syndrome. It's broken. I tried to write it like George R.R. Martin, never do that again. Yeah, I broke that. I broke that really hard, like really, really hard. But there's some great ideas in there, right? So like when I get to Cloud Diver 3, I get to finally play with those ideas, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah, beyond all that, well, not the last question, and we'll wrap things up.
Yeah.
Do you do a 5 critical things like presentation at this point?
Yeah, so at When Words Collide in August, I'm giving one. I gave 5 critical things talk at Creative Inc. So just before the book came out, the one at When Words Collide will be the first one that I've done since launching it. I've debated whether to offer it as like a one-time webinar.
You should.
So
you should.
I think that's a matter of I've got with the software release schedule that we've got. I've got to get things a little bit more humming along there for me to be able to emotionally feel I can.
No, totally. But like, let's say that like spring next year, like hypothetically speaking, right? Hypothetically next year.
Yeah.
As a one-time deal, I think that would satisfy another itch that I think you have that maybe you don't realize you have. Adam Dreece, the teacher.
Oh no, I love doing that.
I think that would be. I think this in particular you'd thoroughly enjoy.
Thanks. That's good. It's a good point.
Yeah, because just for that reason alone, you'd be teaching people how to beat themselves.
Yeah, I've offered it. Actually, I've offered it a couple of times. When Words Collide was one of them, where I offered it as a like a master class, right? To walk people through not just individual steps, be able to get into even more detail. Because one of the things I did with the book is I also provide a number of web resources that I have up on my site, and in case you are having trouble figuring out how to break down your costs and you've read what I've said, but it's like, well, where do you just punch in your numbers? I provide that spreadsheet, that kind of thing. And I know how challenging it can be just to get your pitch right and to understand how to grab people. So I look forward to having that opportunity, and maybe I'll try to do that for Surrey next year.
Yeah.
So because some people brought that up as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the whole entire reason for calling it 5 critical things, one was to take the stress level down.
Yeah.
Because when it was called, I played the idea with like 5 steps and whatnot, and a lot of those created a sense of obligation in somebody. Well, if I start in the first one that kind of got through, it's like, no, these are 5 pieces of advice. Pick the ones you want to use.
Yeah.
Use whatever, use between 0 and 5, all up to you. Maybe just enjoy the stories at the end. But it was also to start a series of advice books in terms of 5 critical things for rebooting your writing. So when Words Collide, I actually have 3 critical things for getting yourself writing again. Right? What happens when you've stopped? And that's another area where I've worked with a number of writers who something happened in their life and they can't get back to writing. And maybe it was medical trauma or whatever.
Personal life disasters,
so
whatever.
That's the next one that I'm slowly putting on the path to getting written. But yeah, that sense of internal obligation, I've been able to ratchet that down. I got to make sure that things don't drop to 0. And that's, again, one of the nice things about Jess and Mike. They, as editors, I told them what I had in mind, and they're completely comfortable with poking me about it. Say, hey, when's this? So sometimes I can't go to the gym if I don't have a social obligation of somebody else expecting me to be there, right?
Yeah, fair enough. So I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
I don't know. Sounds like it.
Yeah, sounds like it. Okay. So how about we
a lot of fun as usual.
Yeah. So talk about your current book and where people can find you.
Yeah. So 5 critical things for successful book signings is available at Amazon, Kobo, iBooks, and people can find me at adamdreece.com. Dreece is Dreece. And of course, I've got my Yellow Hoods Steampunk Meets Fairy Tale series, The Wizard Killer, which is post-apocalyptic dark fantasy. I've got The Man of Cloud 9, which is sci-fi. And anybody is welcome to just come find me, drop me a line. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. I'm more active these days on Facebook than I am on Twitter and Instagram, but I still show up there whenever I got events.
All right.
And that was my conversation with Adam Dreece, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to wrap the show up. Check out 5 Critical Things. Check out anything Adam puts out. All his books are top-notch. And you should definitely take a look at any of them. If you're a writer, you should definitely go to 5 Critical Things. If you are a reader, you should definitely go to Yellow Hoods if you love a cutting-edge young adult saga. Wizard Killer if you love those adrenaline, fast-paced, in-your-face stories, I won't lie, the Cloud Diver in some part is inspired by this format and by Craig DeLuise Crash Dive series. But finally, Man of Cloud 9 is probably one of the neatest science fiction books you'll ever read. So definitely check that all out. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. So if you want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of different ways. You can support my sponsors, Indie Imprint, Jennifer Ron. Jennifer is re-releasing her Wicked Initiation series. Book 1's Wicked Initiations. I'm giving it away here, but it's going to be re-released along with Book 2. Dark Corridor is available through Bunder & Press. Definitely should check that out right now. Indie Imprint, if you're your one-stop shop for anything independent. If you're an independent creator, whether you're a video game player, a musician, a writer, an editor, they do great stuff in terms of editing and presentation. Definitely should check them out. You can support me directly. Subscribe to my podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. I am on all those places. I'm on Podomac as well. YouTube, Joshua Pentellaresco, Twitter, Instagram, at jpentellaresco. My books, Watch Return Master, Wandering God, available through mirrorpublishing.com. You can check out my t-shirts, my Sparkle t-shirt. Yes, that's right. It'll be available September 12th on my Redbubble. More on that soon. You also have my forthcoming books, Cloud Diver, Owl Zero, available November 2019. All right. But if you don't want to do any of those things, that's fine. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks for listening. And I will talk to you guys soon.
Josh.